What's up, everybody? The 49ers kick off football in just 5 days from now on Monday Night Football. I got Steph Sanchez joining me. Carlos is joining me. We got a lot to talk about, including what we should be hopeful about for this season, as well as how I pissed off half of 49ers Twitter. We'll get to all that in about 17 seconds.
Back to throw Montana. Steps up, throws. Touchdown! The 49ers have won the Super Bowl.
And now your host, Ryan Hensley.
Now your host, Ryan Hensley.
What's up, Steph? How you doing?
What's up, Ryan? I'm good. We're getting close to the start of the season here, so the vibes are high.
Yeah, 5 days from now, Monday Night Football. I'm excited. We actually got real football going on tomorrow. I believe the Chiefs play the Ravens, so we got real football tomorrow night. And then also, I believe we're going at 2 o'clock, just so everyone knows, the four-man front show with the coach, Jesse, Grant, and myself will be at 2 o'clock on the coach's channel. So make sure you guys subscribe. I think it's the coach's huddle. So tune in for that. And then tomorrow I'll be live with my guy Johnny Dallas in the morning at 9 a.m. as well. Steph comes every Wednesday, so I'm thrilled to see you here today, Steph. What do you have going on your channel, just so everyone knows? And make sure you guys subscribe. It's right below her at Steph49K.
Yeah, at Steph49K. Well, on my YouTube this week, like starting off the in-season schedule. So today I have a show with Rob. Tomorrow I have a show with Monica of Football is Sexy. If you guys have heard of her platform, she's got an app. She's got a huge following on Instagram. And then on Friday, doing my preview show with Kyle Posey of Niners Nation. So yeah, just getting into the swing of the grind of the full season. So excited for it.
Yeah, I can't wait. Actual football to talk about instead of all this offseason stuff. But the last offseason piece of the puzzle that just transpired recently was Trent Williams signing a restructure with the 49ers. A lot of money going his way. Jed York just shelled out about $98 million securing Brandon Ayuk and Trent Williams. What is obviously, I mean, it's probably obvious for a lot of people, but what is the feeling after signing Trent Williams, after bringing back Trent Williams? How do you feel about that?
I mean, it's a huge feeling. In my opinion, he was the more important piece than Brandon Ayuk. I mean, having both of those guys ready for week one is huge for the team. But obviously, we know what Trent Williams brings to the table. And I mean, it all kind of starts with the offensive line, your offensive success, right? So it could help in your run game, which we know the 49ers love to run to the left side for good reason because you got Trent there. And then, I mean, protecting your quarterback. Your quarterback, if he doesn't have time to throw, if he's at risk of getting hurt, if he's getting flushed out of the pocket, it makes things really difficult for your offense. It doesn't really matter what receivers you have. If you have a really bad offensive line. So I think we can all say that without Trent Williams, it's a below average offensive line. It's probably average with Trent Williams, and that's just a big boost that he brings to the offense. So I think it's huge. It's huge. I think getting them back when they did too gives him the opportunity to, reintegrate to these practices, get his body, his mind right for football and playing in week one. I don't expect he'll be on any sort of like pitch count or anything like that. They're just going to have him out there. But him practicing even before the deal got done, I think was cool too. Cause any practice at this point, him joining so late, I think is important for him to get into the season and not be rusty.
Yeah, I was concerned about the season without Trent Williams. Like, honestly, if they didn't get Trent Williams, I didn't even know if we were going to make the playoffs. That was my feeling. So getting him was like a huge relief for me. Bringing back Trent Williams to me makes this team as good as they were last year. I wanted to talk to you about that actually, as far as like comparing them now in week one compared to last year. So the 49ers offense is essentially the exact same, except they added Dominic Pooney to the offense. He's going to start at right guard instead of Spencer Burford this year. Spencer Burford hurt his, I believe, hand. So, who knows if Burford would have retained that had he been practicing, but I don't know. Pooney just looks really good. So just for the offense, everything's the same, but now you got the addition of Dominic Pooney. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I love Pooney. I think early on in camp, you kind of saw that he just looked like he belonged, and it wasn't just a fluke, right? Like as soon as he played in the preseason as well, he looked like he belonged, and he put together strong games. So I feel really confident about that right guard spot right now, and I think that's important, right? Because I think when you look at the right side, you also see Colton McKivens. You're like, I don't know how much he's really improved, but I think having a guy like Pooney next to him could help Colton McKivitz, which is crazy to say because Pooney's a rookie, right? But I think that's how strong of a offensive lineman he is, and a real nice addition to the offensive line for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited about Trent Williams. Even himself was speaking highly of Dominic Pooney in the press conference yesterday. I think that's a big addition. So the 49ers offense essentially is the same, except you got Dom Pooney instead of Burford. So in general, unless I mean, the only way that they got worse is if some of these older players, have a little wear and tear on them. But other than that, they seem like they're as good, if not better. Who knows if Trent Williams is as good as he's been in previous years? Who knows George Kittle? But I'm not really worried about it, to be real. One guy that started practicing again was Christian McCaffrey. He kind of set out the entire preseason with, I believe, calf strain of some sort. But he's back. So unless there's some issue with Christian McCaffrey or like some of these older guys are just kind of feeling it, like Kittle or Trent Williams, I expect this 49ers team to be better offensively with the addition of Dominic Pooney. One guy that I'm really looking forward to seeing this season is Debo. He looks like he's in the best shape of his life. And so if Debo can have a season like he had 2 seasons ago, then this 49ers offense can actually be better than they were last year. Now, a lot of the teams throughout the NFL, throughout the NFC, and the NFC West in particular are also better. So that makes it a little bit more challenging in that regard. I think last year was a great opportunity for them to seal the deal because these teams weren't as strong as they seem like they are now. But in general, I think this 49ers offense is going to be just as good, if not better. And the key piece that I want to get your take on is Brock Purdy having a full off season. What are your expectations for Brock Purdy coming into this season?
Yeah, I think I get the sense that Brock's ready to take, his leadership role to a new level, his maturity. I think we're going to see more of that this year. I mean, I've said it all off season that I think we see Brock Purdy be a better quarterback, and he may not have the same numbers statistically as he did last year. I think there's obviously opportunity for some regression just because of how high some of those numbers were. But I think he's still going to be highly efficient just because all Kyle Shanahan quarterbacks are pretty efficient. That's just, a thing with Kyle. And the one thing that I do wish could have been different, I would have liked the full offseason for Brock with Brandon Ayuk. Now we didn't get that, right? So now your favorite target, you're going to have to maybe work up that chemistry again. It might take a couple weeks. Like I don't see it being that big of a thing. And who knows? Maybe they'll be right where they left off right away. But I wish we could have seen that because I think we could have seen that chemistry blossom even more. But I do expect Brock Purdy to throw a little bit more this year. I do think that Kyle Shanahan, obviously we know that he trusts Brock. So I think we're going to see a little more of that. They might try to put a little more on his plate this year. And I think to your point of like this offense being the same as far as the personnel goes is true. But I also think what you mentioned too is true that other defenses, once you've shown the same thing, on film for a full year, they already know what you're doing, what you're trying to do. So you're always trying to evolve as an offense, right? That's where Jacob Cowing comes in. We may not see Ricky Pearsall much this season, maybe later in the year, but Jacob Cowing, I think, has an opportunity to, get some looks early in the season even. And I think he's going to play some type of role. It might not be a big role, but here and there, he's a guy who can stretch the field. That's going to open things up underneath. You just didn't have that threat before, right? So I think it's going to be a new chess piece for Kyle Shanahan. It's a small thing that can open up big things for this offense. So I think that's where we'll see new wrinkles on the offense potentially.
Yeah, and you brought up Ricky Pearsall. Obviously, everyone knows what happened. Was shot on Saturday, released from the hospital less than 24 hours after. Apparently, in the weight room, lifting weights already, which is insane to think about. Johnny Cesari says, Ryan, I actually think Pearsall will give us an emotional boost when he gets back. Yeah, I think he's going to give him an emotional boost right now. I think he's already doing that. So I think that he, actually put something out about that where I think he could also be something that brings this team together and puts things
Yeah.
into perspective. And then Jack Jackson's, I want to just thank him. He said, Ryan, I wanted to let you know I enjoy your podcast. Good job. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that, man. I pissed some people off yesterday on Twitter. So I'm going to
When
talk
do you
about
not
that.
piss people off, Ryan?
You know what's nuts is like let's talk about it and then we'll get into the defense. But I do want to talk about it. Grant Cohn put out a report that he heard from his source regarding ownership being upset with Kyle, and then he said that Kyle and John are on the hot seat. I tapped in, and I should have clarified when I tapped in originally, but what I heard on Thursday was that Jed York was not happy about having to pay out all this money to Brandon Ayuk. I didn't hear anything about the hot seat stuff. I should have clarified that when I jumped in on the tweet. Everyone got pissed, but that's what I heard. A lot of times I don't share what I hear because of things like this, right? Like there really was no benefit of me sharing that, and that's why I usually keep these things to the vest. And I think I'm going to plan on doing that moving forward because a lot of people don't want to hear things that aren't sunshine and rainbows. They don't really want to hear the truth, and if it goes against what they want to hear. And it is a new season, new vibes, new hope. But it is Super Bowl or bust. I mean, there was a lot of money invested. Jed York spent $98 million. I don't think it's far from logical to assume that if you're dropping $98 million on two players, that you expect some kind of results in return, and that maybe, yes, you sign the check, but you might not be the happiest about doing it. I mean, I think that's kind of common sense for me. If I'm dropping $98 million, I'm not going to be thrilled about doing it. I might be a little reluctant about doing it, and I want some kind of a return on that investment. And I think that's more what this was about from my guy. My guy told me that he was just pissed about having to pay Brandon like that's money. So I wanted to clarify that on the show, and move forward, so everyone can calm down. It was a little lively yesterday on Twitter. Do you think it's out of the realm of possibility that Jed York could want return on his investment?
No, I mean, like honestly, I don't think that report was like surprising in the sense that I think Jed York, like any millionaire, wouldn't want to pay a lot of money. Usually, like the reason that they're millionaires is because they don't like to spend too much money, but what they do spend money on, to your point, return on investment. You want a return on your investment. And to this point, they have not gotten a return on investment because a return on investment would mean a Super Bowl, right? So, it wouldn't surprise me if there's frustration building around that, but at the same time, winning is the best cure for all of this. Any tension, any unhappiness that may be out there. I think as soon as the 49ers start winning again, all that will be out the window. And I think just also because of the tensions of the Brandon Ayuk negotiations this offseason, I'm sure there were some feelings about that too. But once the season gets rolling, it's like, let's just go, like put it behind you, So I don't think it's going to be something that lingers into the season. Unless, of course, the 49ers struggle for whatever reason, which as long as they're healthy, like I don't see that happening. So, just win and get it done. This is kind of like a good discussion, though, about do you prefer a team to be competing and good for like 10 years, or do you want a team that wins a Super Bowl in those 10 years, but the 9 other years, they're shit? Like,
Yeah.
people have that discussion a lot. And I've surprisingly seen a lot of people say, I would take the team that's good for like 10 years, even if they don't win a Super Bowl. It's like the whole point is to win a Super Bowl. There's no point in being good.
Didn't you and I think it was, who was it, Aponte, have this discussion?
Yeah, we've had this discussion in the past, and it's like it's a good talk. And I've also seen like discussions on Twitter about it too. And I was just, I guess, amazed by how many people
What do
would
you
take
what's your opinion?
I personally would be fine with having a team that's good for 1 year and like the rest of the years their shit.
I
I want
agree
a Super Bowl.
100%.
I have
Yeah.
not seen a Super Bowl in my lifetime as I've been a 49er fan. Their last ring was in '94. I was 3 years old. What does that do for me? Nothing.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to see it. I'm trying to witness it.
Yeah.
And people make fun of the Rams because they're like, oh, you guys won a ring, and then what? They want a ring. Now, like, that's the
Right.
whole point. Like, what do you
Yeah.
mean? So that's
Yeah.
my take on it. But it's interesting to see like how other people feel about it.
Yeah, I don't understand that mentality. I'm 100% Super Bowl or bust. Give me another Super Bowl win. Like you, my kids have never seen a Super Bowl win, and that's important to me. I'd rather win one and be irrelevant for 10 years. I'm still watching every game like I have my whole life. Even when they sucked, I still watched every 49er game. I'm still a
Right.
49er fan, but I want to
Yeah.
see a win. I want my kids to see a win. I was just so you know how this makes me feel old, Steph, because I was like 15 in high school last time the 49ers won the Super Bowl. You were 3 in preschool. That makes me feel
No,
old.
I'm not gonna do the math. It's all right. Lucky for you, math isn't my
Yeah,
strong suit.
right on. We're gonna get back to this defense, but I want to give a special shout out to Johnny. Today's his birthday, and Johnny's a big supporter of the show. A great guy. Happy birthday to Johnny. I'm a big Johnny Chisari supporter, man. So happy birthday, dude. Yeah, let's get back to this defense here. Steph, we talked about the changes on offense for week 1. We got some changes on defense, a lot more changes on defense for week 1. You have Malik Collins replacing Armstead this year. Leonard Floyd replaces Chase Young this year. Devondre Campbell is filling in for Dre Greenlaw while he's still on the pup. Isaac Yeadham replaces Ambry Thomas this year, or Renato Green, I guess. We'll see how that works out. And then Jordan Odom is filling in for Talanoa Hufanga, who could technically play, but I don't think he plays Monday. I would be surprised. I think he comes back like week 2, week 3, something like that. So we got, what is that, 5 changes defensively. I want to get your take on those changes.
Well, I definitely feel great about the secondary. I think the cornerback room is far and beyond better than it was, last year. I'm just thinking like more so the depth. Like they got the 2 main guys in Ward and Lenore, and they're as great as they are. But looking at the depth, way better. Ambry Thomas, not sniffing the field anytime soon. Get well soon, buddy. But I think even still, like he wouldn't probably be on the roster. So I feel good about Renato Green. I feel good about, Yadam. Either one of those guys, like you said, I think that's still up in the air. I don't even think the 49ers have really decided who's going to be that third guy to come in. I think early on in the season, they'll probably give Yadam the edge just because that's where he started at training camp before he got hurt. He's now like at least a week removed from that injury now, maybe even 2. And so I think they just give the edge to the veteran in that case. But it would not surprise me if at some point in the season, like they make the switch and they try to get Renato Green in there too, because I think especially when you look at the cornerback situation potentially for next year, you want to have Renato Green getting some snaps in this year. So I feel great about the secondary. Jair Brown, I think, is going to make a huge leap this season. And then George Odom, I like George Odom. Like he actually looked pretty good in camp. I thought in the preseason he looked good. So he could be that veteran a la like to Sean Gibson, for this team while Hufanga's out. And yeah, I don't expect Hufanga to be out there for week 1. I mean, he hasn't even gotten hit yet, right? Like he needs to experience some contact. I know he's not really going to experience that in practice, but I just think there's still a little bit to go for him to be ready. But I'm going to feel great about the defense once they got Hufanga back and Jair Brown back there. So it's going to be a great secondary. Now you mentioned it. There's, no Eric Armstead anymore. I think what they're going to try to do is more rotation on the interior, or they're just kind of fill the Eric Armstead role by committee. So I think Malik Collins is going to be a part of that for sure. I think at times you'll see Yetur Gross-Matos there. I think Jordan Elliott. So they'll move some guys around and they'll rotate. I do like Leonard Floyd a lot more than just Chase Young, opposite Nick Bosa, and I do think Bosa is going to have a better year. So I feel good about the edges. I guess for me, like the biggest question mark is run defense. Like, is run defense going to be improved? Is the interior going to be improved? So those are the things that I think we'll find out pretty soon, probably in week 1, because the Jets have a really good run game with Brees Hall. I expect they'll run a lot in that first game just to kind of get Aaron Rodgers back into the swing of things. He didn't participate in any preseason games, so they already like to run the ball to begin with. So we'll find out pretty soon. But other than that, like I think the secondary has the opportunity to be one of the best in the league this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm comfortable either way with Ronaldo Green or Isaac Yiadom at corner. Ronaldo Green looked pretty damn good for a rookie. I think for me, like if I'm running a team, I would probably try to lean rookies if it's even close at all times. And so I would probably go Ronaldo Green just so you can build on that for the end of the season. But I know Kyle, I think he's a little bit more cautious than that. Would rather go with a veteran with experience. So I think Isaac probably gets the start, but you never know. Another guy like that, I mean, Odom is the veteran where you have Malik Mustafa, who played really good in the preseason, but also he's a rookie. So I think Malik's going to be starting by this time next year. I would be surprised if he's not. He's that talented to me. But it sounds like they'll probably roll with George Odom for week 1. And then Huff is coming back. And that's the thing is if this team can keep winning or win for the first few games while Huff is coming back and then we get Greenlaw back, it could actually improve as the season goes. And then as far as run defense, I really like Malik Collins. I think he might be an improvement over Eric Armstead against the run. I really think that based on some things I've watched him do. I agree with you in regards to Leonard Floyd. I think he's going to be better than Chase Young. I think the only real drop-off right now is, we'll see about Odom. Just for week 1 is what I'm talking about. Like if Odom fills in for Huff, or you can look at it as a fill-in for Gibson, however you look at it. Huff is obviously an all-pro safety, so I think there's going to be a slight drop-off there. But I'm not confident in Odom. I think he'll do his thing. But really, Devontae Campbell for Greenlaw, I think, is the biggest drop-off on the defense. The other things I think are improved, like DBs are improved to me. I like this defensive line. It's not very deep, but the guys up front, the starters, the first few guys in, I'm confident in it. It's really Devondre Campbell filling in for Greenlaw that concerns me the most because I just don't know if he's on the same caliber type of player as Dre Greenlaw. So that's my biggest question mark on this defense is Devondre Campbell filling in for Dre Greenlaw. Good news is Dre Greenlaw could be back as soon as week 5. So we'll see how that goes. But there's more to it than just the players on defense. Nick Sorensen is now the new defensive coordinator, going to be helping him with that. So that's going to be a whole new thing there, right? Like this could look extremely different than what it looked like with Steve Wilkes. What is your anticipation for Nick Sorensen and Brandon Staley running the show on defense?
Yeah, I think it still remains to be seen what the exact changes are going to be, or what Brandon Staley is specifically influencing within that defensive room, especially because obviously in preseason they're not going to show anything. So again, like week 1, we'll find out. But I think they'll definitely look to mix up coverages. I think they're obviously the biggest issue last year was the pass rush not being married to the secondary at all, or the coverages, right? Like, so I think there's going to be more cohesion there, and that could lead to things like coverage sacks and things like that. So I think we'll probably see more of that. But honestly, like I don't know. I know there's a lot of people who studied like Brandon Staley, before his time here in San Francisco. So I'm sure there'll be some of that he brings. But yeah, as far as the specifics, I'm kind of curious myself, but I'm excited to see it it's got to be better than Steve Wilkes. I just got to imagine. I think they'll go back to some of the things that they were doing before Steve Wilkes, and also it's going to be somewhat maybe a change in philosophy where like your secondary is going to be better than your pass rush. Like it's going to be that kind of comes first, and that can open up things for your pass rush.
Yeah, we might get some coverage sacks, which we haven't had a lot of in the past. One reason I think they went with Sorensen is because when they brought in Wilkes, for whatever reasons, didn't seem like the players were buying in to
Yeah.
what Wilkes was teaching them. Sorensen's been here for a long time. Players are already familiar with him, so that helps. And they might have went with Brandon Staley if it wasn't for that dynamic. I think part of the reason why they went with Sorensen as the D coordinator is because of the continuation. The players know him, and he's in house. It's not some outside guy coming in and trying to change things on them. And that's probably why they didn't just go with Brandon Staley as the defensive coordinator. They went with Nick Sorensen as that guy on the sideline, the familiar face, the guy they're used to. And Staley's going to be up in the booth, it sounds like, assisting Nick Sorensen with his play call. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the defense performs this year. Hopefully they get back to their old ways, and hopefully they can stop the run. That's a huge problem last year, and I'm hoping it's solved this year. We got a few minutes here left. The name of the show is 49ers Give New Reason for Hope, Super Bowl or Bust. I'm trying to be positive as I can because we got to start in this new season, and everyone thinks I'm so negative all the time. I definitely don't feel that way about myself. I feel like I'm pretty balanced. But let's focus on the positive. The one thing about this Niners team is, even when there's like things negative to be said, there's a lot of positive. And I don't want to ignore the positive parts of this team. It's a new season. There's a lot of reason to be hopeful, reason for optimism. My 4 reasons I laid out this morning is it's one of the best rosters in football still. I believe that to be true. If it's not the best, it's top 3. They have the experienced vets who have been here before. They have a lot of players who have been doing this for a long time, and they know what it takes to win football games and to go far in the postseason. The new look defense that we were just talking about with the addition of Sorensen and Staley and some of these guys. Collins, I'm really excited about. So that's another reason. And then finally, Brock Purdy with a full offseason. It's the first time he's been in this role as the starting quarterback. He's got a full offseason behind him now. He looks like he's in the best shape of his life. He should be more confident than he's ever been. So all of those reasons give me reason for hope and optimism for the season starting now, and we get to see how it unfolds on Monday. Do you have any other reasons besides that?
I mean, yeah, I mean, you mentioned a lot of the optimistic points. Obviously, I think a lot of the optimism is around the offense with the defense kind of being like a question mark for the most part. But yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with some of those. But let me go defense. I mean, I'll just say like I think Nick Bosa's primed to have a huge year this year, and like I said, I think Leonard Floyd is going to be huge for this team. Like I think that was a really underrated signing, and like you saw it in camp that Leonard Floyd looks like he looks like a Niner. He looks like the kind of guy we've been missing since like Charles Omenihu, right? Just like a kind of a speed rush guy, someone who can complement what Nick Bosa does and vice versa, right? So I think those two guys are going to be really good. I have a lot of optimism for what the edge rush, what Nick Bosa is going to be able to do this year, and Floyd. So I feel good about that. Debo, we talked about Debo earlier. I think Debo also is like not enough people are talking about Debo. I think 49er fans are, but I think other fans are just like national media not talking enough about Debo just because he's been on this team, right? You're kind of expecting more of the same, but I'm expecting something closer to 2021 Debo. Maybe not the same volume because like there's so many mouths to feed, but as far as role, as far as when he has the ball in his hands, that's what he's going to be able to do. That's what I'm expecting from Debo this year. Health permitting, right? Like there's always that health factor with Debo. So hopefully he could stay on the field most of the season. But if he does, like we always know he's the X factor in every game. He has that ability. So really excited for him. I think he'll probably have a pretty decent role in week 1, and I also think Kittle will have a good game in week 1.
Yeah, I think those are good reasons. You guys should all be subscribed to Steph 49K by now. If you're not, you're tripping. Steph, I appreciate you coming on. Looking forward to talking about the Jets game with you on Wednesday and
Yes,
getting this
sir.
season started. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, man. Peace.
All right, you guys, listen up. I'm going to play my newest sponsor. This show is powered by the law offices of Chris McCurgy. Give me 17 seconds. I'll be back with Lowe's. The Ryan G. Hensley Show is powered by the law office of Chris McCurgy. Chris McCurgy and his team have been empowering businesses, guiding families, and taking care of the injured since 2012. In California, for estate planning, business, or personal injury, be smart and contact Chris McCurgy. All right, man. What's up, dude? How you doing, Los?
Ryan G. Hensley, a man. What's going on?
Not much, man. I see you got. Is it a new hat? Is that your old hat?
I've had it for a little bit. Just break it out now that the season is officially here. And I thought we were going to talk X's and O's, and then the story breaks yesterday. It's like, oh my God! Like in 4+ decades of following the Niners, you know I've been around. This is as much drama as I've seen in an off season ever. So I'd be glad to get football going, really.
Yeah, man, I'm tired of it, honestly. I didn't even think what I tweeted out yesterday in regards to me hearing that, Jed York wasn't happy about overpaying for Brandon Ayuk or whatever, however you want to phrase it, overpaying, paying a lot, whatever you want to say. I didn't think that was even controversial. Like, I think that's common sense. Like, if I'm an owner and I'm paying $98 million for 2 players that were already on my team, I'm not going to be thrilled about it. And if I am, if I agree to do it, I'm going to want some results, right? Like now here's $98 million for these 2 players. I need to see a Super Bowl win. That would be my mentality. That would be Eddie D's mentality, I would imagine.
I would think so, but then this is the same owner that said he would be happy with an NFC Championship appearance. So like which is it? Like you want to just kind of get far and just, the pockets are full, or you really want a Super Bowl like your uncle did? No.
Well, let's talk about you bring up a good point though, right? Like, let's talk about that. If Jed York only wanted relevancy, maybe that's all he does want. I don't know. But if that's all he wanted, they probably could have been relevant without Brandon Ayuk.
Absolutely. Oh, they still would have been a good team, but their chances of winning the Super Bowl would go down significantly. So, yeah, they could have the relevance. But see, that's a dangerous game, like to be relevant. See, to me, like you posed the question to Steph, and of course she's in her early 30s. I just turned 57 Saturday, so I'm
hey, happy birthday, man!
Thank you, brother.
Birthday.
Appreciate it. So you're in the middle. I've seen 5 Super Bowls. I saw their first Super Bowl when I was 13 years old. So like the older people, I think have maybe a different perspective about wanting to be good year after year after year. Because if you're good, then the thought is that at least you have a chance to win a Super Bowl. Whereas if you just go all in, you win it 1 year, and then you're crap for 9 years, your other fan base is talking shit to you for like year 3 or 4 will get old after a while. So, I mean, there's no right way. There's no wrong way. It's a different perspective.
Yeah. Albert has a great question. Alberto. Excuse me, Alberto. My question is, how do you pay these guys and then have the most cap space in the league? It's because they're kicking the can down the road. And at some point, the rooster's going to come home to root, or the chickens are coming home to roost is the proper expression, Alberto. Let me show you guys something. And that's what I mean. Like when I just report what I hear. Some people believe that I hear it. Some people think I just make it up and pull it out of my ass. I promise I don't do that. What I can promise you though is I'm gonna start sharing less, because the more I share, people seem to get so pissed off about what I'm sharing, and I'm just the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger. But what I've learned is I'm not even going to mess with it anymore, because some people.
But it's the truth. I mean, why do people always want to hear rainbows and fluff like 24/7?
I don't know, but they do. They get really they take
it so personal.
Yeah, they get Twitter's a toxic place, man. Honestly, like it really is, man. Like the amount of like personal attacks that come at me just for sharing what I heard is insane to me. But one thing that's good about been doing this for the last 2 years is my skin is really thick. It is what it is.
Yes,
it's like water off a duck's back. most of these people wouldn't say any of this shit to me in real life, so I'm
No
trying not
doubt.
to take it personal.
Yeah,
Um,
they need to have a little less Ralph Tresvant and sensitivity.
some people get, I don't know. It is what it is.
I
Um,
know.
but I do want to try to keep it positive as I want to really, my goal has always been with this show is to keep it balanced. Share the positive, share the negative, tell the truth. That's always been my goal. Some people respect that, some people appreciate it. Some people would rather just, sunshine and rainbows and people blowing bubbles and shit like that. Like if that's the case, it's probably not the right show for you. And that's okay.
As content creators, we can't please everybody, but you pushing 11,000, pretty soon speaks for itself. So keep doing
Yeah.
what you're doing.
Appreciate it, man. So look, I wanted to point this out because Alberto brought it up. Notable contracts on this team. Nick Bosa is the highest paid at his position. Brandon Ayuk is tied for 5th at his position. Trent Williams is 3rd at his position. Debo 14th. Javon Hargrave 11th. Fred Warner 2nd. Christian McCaffrey 1st. George Kittle 3rd. Kyle Juszczyk 1st. And then Brock Purdy 79th, which is crazy. But that's going to change after this season as well.
Big time.
So if you're an owner and you know that you're paying all these guys this money, I mean, I would want some kind of result.
Where's the Lombardi?
Right.
That's kind of one of our biggest, topics when a few of us that are not afraid to go after the front office, go after the head coach. This is one of the things we bring up. This is arguably and not close the best roster in football. Money-wise, talent-wise, I believe they have, 8 guys in the top 100. They're stacked. They're loaded. There should be no excuse that they don't have one Super Bowl in the last 5 years. They don't. So maybe that is wearing on ownership a little bit. They're writing these checks more and more and more and still don't have a ring to show for it. So it's only natural that they would be upset, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, I would want results. Like, look, I know it's not easy to win a Super Bowl, and they've been close a couple times, but it's like get over the hump. And I think they have the tools to do it. And maybe this is the year they do it. I've never said that I don't think Kyle Shanahan. 2 things I've never said: fire Kyle Shanahan. I've never said that. The other thing I've never said is that Kyle can't win a Super Bowl. Those are 2 things I've never said. Kyle can possibly learn and win a Super Bowl. He's got the roster to do it. He's my age. He's 45. There's no reason why he can't improve upon himself. And I never said fire Kyle Shanahan. Those are 2 things I've never, ever said. But this is your team, man. It's time to get it done.
Yeah, I think that's when you make a comment like that, like you know me well, I talk against Shanahan, but that's an ignorant statement to say he can never win one. That's just dumb. But we also identify some of his weaknesses, some of his stubbornness, and we want him, if the possibility is that he has it within him to change, learn from his mistakes and get better, then it can happen. If he stays the same, then who knows? But no, absolutely. He's a bright coach. He's a very good coach. He just needs to change a few things that we've elaborated quite a few times before.
Yeah, and 187, who disagrees with me often, says the same thing. I'd be pissed if I overpaid for BA too. And I think the plan. Here's why I think, and this is not source information. This is just what I'm gathering, putting all the dots, together, or putting everything together. I think they had a plan for what they were going to do with BA, and they had a limit. And if it crossed that limit, they were going to trade him. Right? They put him and Depot on the trading block before the draft. This is a true statement. It's not me making it up. They were both available for trade before the draft. They didn't get what they wanted, so they held on to him. But they drafted Ricky Pearsall and Cowing anyways. So I'm not sure that signing Ayuk to $30 million was in the cards for what they wanted to do. And so it came down. They were kind of cornered and put in that position where they just decided that's what they're going to do, and they're going to go all in and try to win the Super Bowl this year. So
Ryan, do you think if they had won a Super Bowl in the last 5 years that their thinking was, okay, fan base is happy, ownership is happy, we finally climbed the mountaintop, we won one? Do you think that they would let some of these veterans go and walk and not pay them? Or would they be like the Warriors, was like, oh, we won one, we won another one, we got to win one for Steph, we got to win one for, whoever, Fred Warner? Or they, taste victory, taste the Super Bowl, and continue to. I think they pay either way, whether they win a Super Bowl or not. But I'm just curious about your answer on
I
that.
think if they won the Super Bowl last year, they would be thinking about, okay, we won our Super Bowl. How do we make sure we're good long term? And that may mean not paying all these guys what they want, right? Like that may I think this year it's clear to me that the decisions they made, the investments they made, it's like we gotta win this thing. So
Yeah.
we can't give up BA when we don't have a replacement for him. We gotta pay Trent what he wants. Because what are we gonna do? They didn't draft a tackle to replace him. So to me, I think if they won that Super Bowl, their mentality would have been like, okay, we won one. How do we get
Yeah.
another one? How do we secure the future for the long term? And I don't think they would have been as aggressive financially with some of these guys. I think they probably would have traded a BA or a Debo in the draft, and I think they would have maybe. I don't know. I don't know if they would have like spent so much money this season if they won last year. So I think that is the thing.
I think so. I mean, when you look at the history of football, the two organizations that come immediately to mind that were long-term dynasties that did it not just for 3, 5, 7 years, that did it for 15, 17, 18 years, 49ers and New England, Walsh and Belichick. They had the philosophy of they trusted their scouting department. They trusted to draft and develop players to replace aging veterans. So they let aging veterans go. They never overpaid for older dudes because they trusted that the young guys that they drafted would, maybe not be Hall of Famers, but would be very, very good. And their system would continue to win. I mean, the Niners let go of Honeylott, traded Montana. They let Roger Craig go. So the Patriots let Seymour go. They let a lot of great players go. Let Brady go. So that didn't work well when Brady left. That's a bad example. But you get my point that, long-term sustainability and being real good isn't necessarily about paying older players that are on the downside of their career, but they're pushing all their chips to the table to try to again win it this year.
Yeah, and I think with BA, man, to me, honestly, my thoughts on BA, I love BA, man. I wanted them to keep him. I think they just kind of dropped the ball on the negotiating and could have got him for a little cheaper because I was all for keeping Brandon Ayuk. I think he's not even in his prime yet. I really think, and he may not, he missed the whole offseason this year, so he may start off slow this year a little bit.
Yeah.
But I don't think Brandon Ayuk has reached his prime at all. I think he's still on the incline. The Trent Williams situation was so necessary because they didn't draft a replacement. If they would have got a Kingsley like the Chiefs did,
Gonna be
maybe
watching him tomorrow night.
right? Then they might feel a little bit more like, hey, Trent, we're not gonna, not the Kingsley is a replacement for Trent necessarily, but he's not Jalen.
He's a replacement for McKivitz, right?
Yeah, right.
Can you imagine Kingsley and Trent Williams as our bookends?
I imagine every night. Yeah,
I think Mr. Purdy would feel a lot better being protected with those two tackles. But
yeah, so we'll see. I mean, I just really feel like this is a Super Bowl or bust type season for the 49ers, and not necessarily. And I'm not saying that Jed York's going to fire these guys necessarily. He did extend them. They have 2 more years after this, I believe, on their contract. So I would imagine he lets that contract play out, but that should be the expectation. You spent a ton of money. This is the best roster in the NFL. You've gotten there twice. The expectation should be win a Super Bowl, win it, and not just get there. And I actually hope that that's Jed York's mentality. If it's not, then there's the problem right there. You got to start at the top with that mentality. So I know he was barking that game with Harbaugh, switched it up a little bit last year with some of the things he was saying. So I don't know.
That was weird.
Yo, what do you think about the Niners versus Jets on Monday? How are you feeling about that game?
I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think both defenses are going to kind of dictate play, like a 20-17, 23-17, 23-20 type of game. I think the Niners pull it out at the end. I think McCaffrey will have. Well, let's see. It's hard to say how bad that calf is and how it'll play into this game and the rest of the season. But I think it's going to be a tight game. The Jets have a lot to prove. They were a big-time propaganda team last year, and everything fell apart when Rodgers got hurt. Rodgers has something to prove. Hey, the Jets have 3 or 4 ex-Niners. You don't think they want to come back at their team? DJ Reed, Javon Kinlaw, the great Solomon Thomas want to do some things against the Niners on Monday night in front of the nation. So I think it's going to be a very competitive game. I think the Niners' weakness is the Jets' strength. Their defensive line is no joke, and like I'm consistently saying, there's two weaknesses on the Niners' O-line: center and right tackle. Keep an eye on those matchups against the Jets.
I mean, on paper, the Jets are a pretty good team, man. They made a lot of moves. I mean, so for one, they drafted tackle Fashanu, 11th pick overall. So they drafted a tackle. You know, they obviously saw what happened to Aaron Rodgers last year without protection right away. And then they got actually the guy that was compared to Debo, Malachi Corley. Everyone was saying this is the next Debo Samuel, who I thought might be on the 49ers radar for this draft. They got him. So that's an interesting pickup as well. Now, free agency, they picked up Javon Kinlaw. You know he wants to come back and put on a show for sure. They also got another tackle. They beefed up the tackle. They beefed up the O-line with Tyron Smith. John Simpson is their guard. Morgan Moses. So they saw what happened last year, and they addressed it. They really went after fixing the line.
Novel concept. See a weakness, fix it, bro. Hey, shit, man, my tire's flat. Let me get a new tire. Let me fix it.
Right.
Damn.
Yeah. My tire went flat yesterday. It was
the other thing, Ryan, is their coach obviously knows as well. If Saleh looks at the Super Bowl tape, the Jets defense has very similar personnel to Kansas City. They can put pressure. They have corners that can press, which gives the Niners problems. And I don't know if I've seen Kyle been able to stop the blitz on a good defensive team. So let's see. It's going to be a very interesting. The two teams are very evenly matched. Again, when it's very evenly matched, it's going to come down to game plans and coaching. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, Brock's got to be ready. Kyle's got to be ready because every team right now, I mean, it's not just us that see the obvious weakness with the 49ers. That's their offensive line. So every team is facing the 49ers is going to try to get after Brock Purdy. And they watched what the Chiefs did to him last year. They watched what the Ravens did to him last year and the way they mixed up their blitzes and different looks, and they're going to try to get after Brock Purdy. So Brock's got to be ready. He's good at getting the ball out quick. He's good against the blitz, so that helps. Yep. And Kyle's got to be able to protect him as best he can with his offensive philosophy. I think the biggest question for this game for me is what Aaron Rodgers are we getting? Are we getting the 4-time MVP Super Bowl winning Aaron Rodgers, the Aaron Rodgers that looks like, there's moments where you watch Aaron Rodgers throughout his career and you're like, this dude is amazing, like one of the best throwers of the football of all time. And then his last year in Green Bay, I think he was just distracted. I really think what happened for Aaron Rodgers is his mind was out of it. I just think he lost focus, wasn't happy in Green Bay, got distracted by things outside of football and just wasn't feeling it. And I think that's why he struggled his last year there, along with his team kind of falling apart around him. And then, last year he was injured on like the 4th play or something like that. So we don't know what Aaron Rodgers we're going against. Are we going against the Aaron Rodgers of old that looks like one of the best throwers of the football, the MVP caliber type Aaron Rodgers, or are we going against a worn out, washed out Aaron Rodgers whose head's not in it anymore? I think that's the biggest question for this game to me. Like, I don't know who we're going against.
Yeah, and, they may bring him back slowly, and, they have one hell of a running back on my fantasy team, Brees Hall, so a little conflict here. Do well, but don't win the game. So they may ease him back slowly. And the Niners' strength is their secondary to me. So if I'm the Jets offensive coordinator, I'm not trying to throw the ball 30, 40 times a game, unless you're behind, of course. But it's going, the Niners' run defense was kind of shady last year, and we don't know what it is going to be this year. So I think it's going to be both teams are going to have a heavy dose of running the ball. And I think that's going to be another reason to keep the score a little bit lower. It's going to keep running the clock. Both want to establish the run, and both secondaries are excellent. So I think it's going to be a dogfight, an old school game.
It seems like those are the 3 biggest questions, right, for this game. The 3 biggest unknowns are, what is Aaron Rodgers going to look like as a quarterback? What is the 49ers defense going to look like against the run? And how is Nick Sorensen and Staley going to dial it up? What is their defense going to look like from a schematic standpoint this season compared to last season? I think those are the three biggest questions. Am I missing one?
Special teams is something that's never talked about with the Niners, and it's never a strong point. I can't remember the last time the Niners did have a good. And I'm not talking about kicking and punting. It's return game. When was the last time the Niners returned anything for a touchdown? Or they always seem to have fumbles in big games. So special teams is never discussed, but it's the third component of football: offense, defense, and who knows? It may come down to a special teams gaffe or a great special teams play on either side. But that's not been a strength under Kyle's watch as far as that section of the team. So let's see what happens there. That could be a little sleeper.
The kick coverage did not look good in the preseason. Now, the kick return with Isaac Grendo looked great for that one play. So I think he's going to be our kick return guy. What I am excited about for this season in general, not just for the 49ers, is the new kickoff rule. I think that's really going to shake things up. Obviously, it'll suck if your team's losing as a result of a kick return. That sucks, but it's going to make the game more exciting. I think they said 25% of all kickoffs were returned last season, and they expect it to be flipped. Now 75% will be returned. And what we saw in the preseason on the kick returns was very vanilla. No one was giving away their cards. There's going to be more scheme involved in these kick returns once the season starts, and it's going to start tomorrow. Tomorrow, the Ravens play the Chiefs, man. What's your prediction for that game?
Ooh, man. I think the Ravens have really a lot to prove. The Ravens need that game. Kansas City don't need that game. Kansas City's like, we can lose the first three games. We're going to win the Super Bowl. So I think from a desperation point of view, Baltimore's the more desperate team. I think they pull it out. I think like kind of Detroit went into Kansas City and I believe beat them week one. Close game. Derrick Henry is going to be a problem for Kansas City because Baltimore is going to commit to the run and stay with the run if it's a close game in the fourth quarter. Hint, hint. So Baltimore pulls it out. It's a close game.
Seems like the Chiefs are kind of like NBA. They're like the LeBron James of football, where they kind of just coast at this point until they get to the playoffs. Once they make the playoffs, they turn it up. It does feel like that. Like it felt like the Lions, that was everything for them last year. My phone's ringing. The Lions, that was everything for them last year, whereas the Chiefs are like, whatever.
Baltimore kind of, the Niners are stubborn at addressing O-line, Ryan, but Baltimore's stubborn at addressing wide receivers and getting weapons for Lamar. Like they still only have really Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews. And if they had gotten a couple more playmakers to combine with his running ability, to combine with Derrick Henry, like sometimes I just don't understand organizations. Like you see your roster, you see the strengths and you see the weaknesses. Why would you not want to improve your very, very glaring weaknesses? In Baltimore's case, I think it's their passing game. And that's why they sometimes fail in the playoffs. Because in the playoffs, when you're behind, you need the passing game. You can't expect and assume you're going to be ahead all the time and just hand it off. So,
yeah. Well, give us 17 seconds, guys. I'm going to play my sponsorship commercial here, and then Los and I are going to finish this up. Hensley Real Estate and Mortgage has been serving all of California since 2009. I would love to help you and your family. Whether you're buying, selling, financing, or refinancing, please reach out. I'd love to help. Visit RyanGHensley.com for more information. Yes, everybody, if you are buying or selling a house in the state of California, or you need financing, refinancing, please hit me up, or you can actually hit up Los. Los is a mortgage broker as well, and he does some non-traditional finances. You can hit up Los also. And then shout out to my newest sponsor, the Law Office of Chris McCurgy. He's a really good dude, 49er fan. He's a guy I trust. He can set you up with family estate planning, like set you up with a trust. He can help you with business law and as well as personal injury. So if you need anything in those regards, hit up Chris McCurgy. He's a really good guy, and he's a 49ers fan. So support Chris McCurgy. Details in the description for him. A lot of stuff in the description. Underdog Fantasy, how you can get a hold of me, how you can get a hold of Chris McCurgy, all of that, how you can subscribe to my podcast, how you can buy a coffee. I don't even have it. My coffee mug, my shirts, all of that good stuff. So details in the description for all of that. Los, how you feeling about the season, man? We're just about to start the season here in 5 days from now. What's your general outlook for the season?
They're going to be very competitive and very good again. I'm saying 10-7. I just think I'm going to just stay with my conviction and just say that their undoing is going to be, unless they address it, unless some guys come out of nowhere from the practice squad or trade or anything like that, I'm going to say that their O-line is going to be their downfall. So I'm saying a 10-7 record, win the division, and get knocked out in the first or second round. And
Well, damn. Yeah.
so I'm gonna stay with that. I see a lot of people changing their mind as soon as Trent Williams signed. Oh, we're going to the Super Bowl. That's it. We're going to the Super Bowl. I mean, we've talked for weeks, and even when Trent was coming back, we were like both kind of on the Detroit bandwagon, because we got to consider one thing. Everybody focuses on the Niners. We have to look at what as football fans, not 49er fans, as football fans, we need to see what other teams are doing and how they're improving as well. And to me, all the Niners' main competition, Detroit, Green Bay, Philadelphia, they've all got better, and they're younger. So take that as it is.
Yeah, every year I come into the season hoping the 49ers win the Super Bowl. For the last 30 years, that's how I start the year. I hope they win the Super Bowl. Then if you ask me, like, analytically, what do you think happens? I don't know. Like, I've been really – when you look at this offseason, you saw two teams really just go all in. Now, the Niners went all in financially, but really what they did was bring back essentially the same team. That they had to go in all in financially, but it's the same team, which is a really good team. But the Lions and the Texans are the two teams that went all in financially and improved. So because of that, and because of how I look at CJ Stroud, that's my early prediction on Super Bowl winner. CJ Stroud and the Texans beat the Lions. I know that's out of left field. It's also very hard for so throughout the history of the NFL, if you go to the Super Bowl and you lose, only 6 teams have made it back. Only 6. And only 3 have won. So it's very hard to do. And then with the Chiefs, no team has ever three-peated in the Super Bowl. So they would be the first team to do it. So very unlikely there as well. The odds are stacked against them. Now, do I want them to? Absolutely. I hope they do. I think they have the talent to do it. Now they just got to be healthy and play ball, man, and get it done. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I will say that this is one of the better draft classes that Kyle has done, and they may make a difference. They've drafted like 4 or 5 guys that could really be difference makers. Now, whether they're used, we talk about that too, that the Niners like their veterans, and sometimes they keep these young guys down, which I think sometimes is a mistake. But if some of these young guys can be implemented right away, Mustafa, Pooney, of course, is going to start and make a difference. I think that could go a long way from them being just good to getting back to the dance.
I hope so, man. I hope so. One thing I just wasn't aware. Nick Nice said Grant just said something about Mason being our kick returner, and then other people are talking about Garindo's hurt. I wasn't even aware of that. If that's true, that sucks, but I do have confidence in Mason being that guy. Breaking one long distance, I don't know about that. I don't know if he's that kind of runner. So we'll see. I like Isaac Garindo's speed on the kick returns because if he breaks one, he can be gone. Mason is a tough runner, but I never pictured him as like a breakaway guy. So we'll see. That's the hard part about Wednesday shows. Grant and Stats, I believe, go every Wednesday, same time as us. So the views come down, but then they come over here later. And I appreciate everyone that does it. There's been 180 people that watched the show today so far. I appreciate those of you guys who chose to watch with us. I'm going to be back tomorrow with Johnny Dell. Los, what do you have going on your schedule, bud?
Well, we've been interviewing a lot of people lately. We had Ron Rivera last week, former coach of the Panthers and Commanders, former linebacker of the 80s Bears. And your boy was asking them some question about some Chicago Bears football, Walter Payton, all that good stuff. So we've had some guests on interviews wise, a little bit more baseball stuff to finish out the Giants. Thankfully, mercifully, they can be done. So yeah, it's been going good on the NorCal Sports Network.
Yeah, so make sure you guys follow Carlos at NorCal Sports Network. and him and his crew. I've met. I can't remember the guy's name now. What's his name?
Dan.
Yeah, Dan. Sorry, Dan. I had a whole interview with Dan, so I'm horrible with names. My memory is shot. But make sure you guys go check out NorCal Sports Network. Los, great job today as always, man. I appreciate you.
Thank you, brother.
All right, you guys. Tomorrow 9 a.m. I'll be on with Johnny Dell at 9 a.m. And then we're doing that 4-man front show on the Coaches Channel at 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. East Coast time. Make sure you guys tune in for that as well. If you haven't yet, hit the like button, subscribe. I appreciate all your support, and I'll see you soon. Thank you so much for watching the Ryan G. Hensley Show. Your support is greatly appreciated. Please visit RyanGHensley.com to learn more about me and all of my businesses. Whether it's real estate, credit repair, solar, whatever it is, you can find out more about me on that website. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you know when we go live. Thanks again for watching.